Thank you for joining me. I just wanted to go ahead and say thank you for subscribing. We have 100 subscribers right now. Yay! Thank you all for supporting me. I wanted to also take this chance to introduce you to my shop and tell you why I'm doing tutorials and also a little bit about my process. Here we go. Here is the Etsy shop. I've been open on Etsy for more than 3 years now, and many of the projects that you see I've been selling almost since the beginning, at least in my first year. These are some of the tutorials you've been seeing. But I really wanted to say go ahead and leave questions and comments. I plan on actually answering a lot of questions. Like you can see, these are my actual products, and I'm doing tutorials of the actual products that I sell online. I know that that sounds pretty counterintuitive to business, but as of September, a few manufacturers have found my shop and they've been studying it. Some mentioned my bestsellers by name, asking if they can make them for me. But I realize if I teach manufacturers how to make my items, that pretty soon I'll see them in big box stores and most will assume that I wasn't the original creator. I would much rather teach you guys how to make my items, and so you can make them on your own. And then the other reason is because often I'm limited by time. There's some of my foods that I have made, say my first, second year in business, and have never been able to make again, just because of time restraints. So I thought it would be nice for you at least to be able to see how they're made and see if you want to make them yourself instead. You can see that I have a lot of items. So that's why I'm offering the tutorials. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about my inspiration and my process. Since I am running a business, and I don't know if most of you are doing this as a hobby, or if you're doing this for a business, or you want to make a business of your own. Let me go ahead and scroll to the top of this page. This is actually my Zibbit shop. The manufacturers have discovered me on Etsy, and so my new items are going to be on Zibbit. For instance, here you see a French toast. My French toast is one of my newer items, so it is not on Etsy. I'll put it on Etsy once I actually make a tutorial for it. The peppermint is not new, but it's not on Etsy right now. But the ice cream cones, those particular ice cream cones are new, so they're not on Etsy. But I just wanted to go ahead and share with you so you can see some of my items. You could let me know what items it is that you want me to do a tutorial on. I hope to eventually get to all the foods. There's one of my favorites, the s'more bracelet. And I also love the moonshine. The moonshine is just too fun. Okay, now for my process. My process is, first, well, I've mentioned before that I like to make things in sets. I like to make things in sets for charm bracelets and groupings. So most of the time when you see that I make something, there's more to go with it as well. There we go. I'm hoping it focuses again. There we go. As you can see, I have some cake pops, strawberry shortcake ice cream, a cupcake, cheesecake, an Oreo themed cake. Okay, so inspiration. One of my favorite things for inspiration is themes. I choose themes. That is one of the ways that I decide what I'm going to make. Another one of the ways that I decide what I'm going to make, I love this bracelet, is I actually look up national food holidays. National food holidays, there are a ton. Um, there we go. Yay. That's my winter themed bracelet. So, sorry, I'm getting a little boring here. So yeah, I look up national food holidays. There's almost a food holiday almost every single day. So if you're in doubt of what to do, that's always a fun way to decide what new things you can make. Once I actually choose what I'm going to make, I either purchase the real food from a restaurant or I make it. I take pictures of it. I look at the color, I look at the texture, and I look at the construction. A lot of times, construction is just basic shapes, and of course, you want to keep texture in mind, but as you can see here, the shape of the ice cream, the shape of the apple. I really look at the shapes first, and I really try to decide how I want to construct it. And I think a lot about it before I actually start making it. I usually take a few days to think about a single food, and I will stare at images of the food. I'll literally Google the type of food that I want to make, and I look at pages and pages and pages of images. I get an idea of what I like, what I don't like in those particular images to get an idea of what it is that I might want to do. For instance, with my chocolate-covered strawberries, I scoured images for days and days of different types of chocolate-covered strawberries. And from there, I narrowed down what I wanted. Sometimes my items are more realistic. Sometimes they aren't cartoonish, but they're also not super realistic. Like the strawberries, if I wanted to make realistic strawberries, I wouldn't be using the red clay. I'd probably be using more of a white clay and hand painting them, like the peaches and the pears. Then, I also consider another thing before making a food is uniformity. Since I own a shop, I want to make sure that what I'm selling looks pretty much like the photo that you see. I want to be able to make them as closely as possible to one another. That's often why in directions you'll see measurements. It's easy to go ahead and make a plate by making a round circle and pressing it down, and I have done them that way. But oftentimes when you see that I'm using cutters or I give measurements, that's to make sure that I stay as uniform as possible so the items that I make come out all very similar to one another. So that's just kind of, that's more important when you're run a business rather than a hobby. As a hobby, you don't have to be so precise. I actually am doing these tutorials with the intention of having it more almost like a class where you're learning the techniques. I talk my way through it. I also give those written tutorials because I really want to make sure that you can see what I'm doing and that the steps. You can see the step-by-step photos. You know the exact measurements. You know the exact tools. I use a lot of tools because I want to make sure that I am consistent. So I think I'm getting a little repetitive now, but I just wanted to go ahead and introduce you to my process, to my shop, so you can see what kind of foods that I've made. You can feel free to request certain foods that you've seen here. I've sold more than 4,000 items on Etsy, so if you want to cruise through the sold items, you could even start with the oldest stuff that I've sold if you want to see some of the things I don't have around anymore. but I just wanted to give you an introduction to myself and let you know where I'm coming from, and I'm hoping to get tons and tons of videos up. I have lots of ideas for food that I've never made before, as well as some old favorites that I love that I don't have. As I make new batches, I will be doing new tutorials. So feel free to ask me for what you want to see. If you wanted to start a business with you doing your creations and of just wondering about some tips, or there really isn't any secrets, but I'd be happy to share what I have done and how I approach things if you would like to know. I am open and honest about that. So, sorry this last screen has been boring and you've been staring at it for a while. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for favoriting and for your comments. All of the foods that have been requested so far, I will be getting to them. I'm going to start trying to do them in themes as much as I can, so that way you can create bracelets with themed foods. Please take care and let me know the direction you want the channel to go. There will be some knitting and crochet tutorials popping up occasionally, so don't worry if you see those. I'll just be trying to add those in as I can, and for each of those I will be creating patterns. So much like here in my foods, I have a written description at the bottom. In the crochet and knitting ones, I will have either a lesson that's written, moving forward to the new ones, or I will have a pattern that I wrote for you to practice the stitch that is a good pattern for that level of knitting or crochet. So here we are. Let me know what you'd like to see, and please feel free to share your opinion. Thanks. Bye.